Investiture of the Gods, Chapter 30.
King Zhu's just overwhelming blindness. The kingdom's already shaky.
Yeah, things are unstable.
And his advisor, Yao Zong, kind of one of the last sensible voices left, he desperately tries to warn the king. But Zhu, he's too arrogant to listen.
So let's start there. What was the political situation? Why was Zhu so confident even when Yao Zong is sounding these major alarm bells?
Well, Yao Zong laid it out pretty clearly. He wasn't just talking about minor skirmishes. He gave Zhu a full strategic picture. He pointed out that Jifa, that's Ji Qian's successor, had already crowned himself King Wu.
Okay.
And more importantly, he was winning over the regional lords, the Zhu. The power base was genuinely shifting. Yao Zong was basically saying, we need to act now.
But Zhu just laughs it off.
Pretty much. He calls Jifa a yellow-mouthed child, suggesting King Wu is basically insignificant, just a kid playing king.
And Jian Shang, Jifa's strategist, the guy who would eventually bring Shang down.
Dismissed as just a sorcerer, Zhu completely underestimates him. He thinks it's all just trivial.
Wow, and that arrogance, that blindness, that's exactly why Yao Zong realizes it's hopeless, right?
Exactly. If the king can't even tell the difference between a real organized military threat with a brilliant strategist behind it and, like, magic tricks, then the dynasty's foundation, its core strength, is already gone.
So Yao Zong leaves, basically saying, Jifa is the one who will destroy Shang. Prophetic words.
Utterly prophetic. Zhu is just paralyzed by his own hubris. He laughs off this huge external danger.
Completely unaware that the real poison is brewing much, much closer, right inside the palace. During the New Year's Day ritual, the Yuan Dan.
Yes, and that's where the focus shifts dramatically. It goes from this grand political strategy, or lack thereof, right into intense court intrigue.
And the setup is this New Year ritual. All the consorts, the ministers' wives, they have to come pay respects to the Empress Sudaji.
Which is the perfect opportunity for Daji.
Yeah.
This tradition becomes the horrific vehicle for her revenge plot.
And this brings Lady Jia into the picture. Huang Feihu's wife. She's there not just for Daji, but also because her own sister-in-law, Huang Fei, is King Zhu's Western Palace consort. So it's family in a way.
It is, and Daji spots her chance immediately. You have to remember, she absolutely despises Huang Feihu. He'd messed up one of her schemes before, the divine Oriole thing.
Right, and he actually injured her face in the process.
Exactly. For Daji, that wasn't just a minor slight. It was a huge insult to her power, maybe even to the king's authority by extension. So Lady Jia becomes the pawn. Payback time.
But wait, Daji risked this massive breach of protocol, this incredibly dangerous game, just for personal revenge on Lady Jia. Was the grudge that strong, or did she also see it strategically, like taking out the general's wife weakens the general?
I think it's probably both. It definitely starts personal, deep-seated vengeance. But Daiji is cunning. She knows how to manipulate. She plays this angle of false sisterhood. Claims because Lady Jia is older, they should be sisters.
Creating a pretext.
Precisely. She even calls her an imperial aunt. It's all a fabrication to justify inviting Lady Jia to a banquet, making it seem innocent.
And then the trap springs when King Zhao unexpectedly shows up.
Right. And Lady Jia tries to keep her distance. She knows the rule. It's ironclad. Jun Bujian Chenqi. The sovereign absolutely should not see his minister's wife. It's a fundamental boundary.
A boundary protecting the whole political order, really.
And Daji actively works to tear it down. She lies to the king, spins this story that because Huang Fei is Jia's sister-in-law, Lady Jia is technically imperial relative, Neiki. So seeing her is okay. It's bending the rules to the breaking point.
And then she convinces the king to wait aside while she gets Lady Jia up to the star-picking tower, the Zixing Lu, promising this amazing view.
Yeah, basically inventing a loophole, using these twisted family ties to push the king over that sacred moral line.
And Zhu, fueled by lust, I guess, and Daji probably describing Lady Ji's beauty. He just goes along with it, throws caution to the wind.
He absolutely does. He's not just passive. He's an active participant in this whole corrupt setup. So Lady Ji is led up the tower thinking she's going to see a nice view.
But what she actually sees is, well, it's the stuff of nightmares. The scorpion pit, the chai pen.
And you really have to visualize this to get the impact. The text describes it vividly, this huge pit, teeming with venomous snakes, scorpions, and littered with human skulls and bones.
Grim. It underscores the king's existing cruelty, doesn't it? This isn't a sudden turn for him.
Not at all. This tower isn't just for stargazing. It's a monument to his decay. Lady Jia asks what this awful pit is for, and Daji just casually, chillingly says, "Oh, that's the new way we execute palace maids who step out of line, stripped naked and thrown in."
Horrifying. And before Lady Jia can even really react or try to flee, King Zhu appears.
Yes. The confrontation is instant. Lady Jia makes one last attempt, appeals to protocol, refuses to sit when he asks, insists she's a humble minister's wife and needs to leave. She's trying to maintain that dignity.
But Zhu's having none of it. He's bought Daji's lie about her being his imperial aunt. He insists she has to comply.
And then he commits the ultimate violation, the ultimate insult. He personally offers her a cup of wine. Now, in that context, accepting wine directly from the sovereign, it implies submission, closeness, agreement. He's forcing her into complicity.
And that's the breaking point for her. She realizes she's trapped. It's either mortal danger or total dishonor. The text says her face turns red and puckle with anger.
She chooses integrity. She grabs that cup, throws the wine right in Zhu's face, calls him a Hunjin, a dim-witted, immoral sovereign, denounces him for abusing his loyal people, for shattering the state's moral code.
A truly defiant act.
And then a final, desperate move. Knowing there's no honorable way out, she cries out that she will complete her integrity and honor Quan Ki Mingjie, and she leaps from the high railing of the star-picking tower,
falling to her death instantly on the pavement below, choosing a terrifying end over the shame Zhu and Daji tried to force on her.
The king is barely just annoyed by this interruption to his plans. But the horror isn't over, not by a long shot.
Because this immediately brings the second victim, Huang Fei, the king's own consort, Lady Jia's sister-in-law.
Exactly. Huang Fei hears the commotion, hears what happened, and rushes straight up to the tower. And she holds nothing back.
She confronts Zhou directly.
Directly, in public. She rails against him, reminds him of all Huang Feihu's years of loyal service, defending the borders, fighting off enemies, and she accuses Zhu of destroying the fundamental moral principles, the Gangchang and Yulun, that are supposed to hold the entire kingdom together.
Her grief and rage must have been immense.
Overwhelming. And then she turns on Daji, grabs her, pulls her down, starts beating her. And it's noted, interestingly, that Daji, even though she's this powerful fox spirit, she doesn't dare use her magic powers there. In front of the king, she just screams.
So the king steps in.
He tries to intervene, yeah. Tries to brush it off, saying Lady Jia's death was her own fault. But Huang Fei is just lost in her fury. She swings wildly and accidentally punches the king right in the face.
Oh, no. Striking the son of heaven.
That's the absolute final line crossed. Zhu is enraged that a vile woman, a Jianren, dared to hit him. He grabs his own consort, Huang Fei, by her hair, her clothes, and with his immense strength, he throws her off the tower too.
Just like that, murdering his own consort in a fit of rage.
Two women, both devoted in their own ways, both dead within minutes on the star-picking tower, victims of the king's lust, his cruelty, his uncontrollable anger.
This is the point of no return, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is the true catalyst. The kingdom might still look intact on the outside, but its moral core, its anchor, is utterly shattered. Now the news has to reach Huang Feihu himself.
And it does. He's back at his mansion celebrating the new year with his brothers, his loyal officers, and his 3 young sons. They mention the ages specifically, 14, 12, 7.
They're feasting, trying to have a normal celebration, when the terrified servants burst in with the news, the double tragedy. Lady Jia jumped to her death, and consort Huang Fei was murdered by the king.
You can just imagine the devastation.
The source text focuses right away on the sons. They hear their mother is dead, and they just break down, crying uncontrollably. And for Huang Feihu, the man whose entire identity was built on loyalty, on service, his whole world just imploded, destroyed by the very sovereign he'd sworn his life to protect.
The king didn't just lose a general here. He personally, brutally destroyed that general's family. That poem at the start of the chapter, it wasn't kidding. The king, through his own corruption, literally drove out the pillars supporting the heavens,
guaranteeing the Zhu family's rise. It was inevitable after this. But Feihu, he hesitates. He's key officers, guys like Huang Ming and Zhu Ji, they're ready to go. They want rebellion now.
But he pulls back. Why?
He's sworn. He actually voices this doubt. Is it right to betray 7 generations, that 200-year legacy, for one woman? He's thinking about his family's reputation, their name and history.
So the legacy, the idea of loyalty, is almost weighing more heavily than the immediate, horror and injustice he's just suffered.
Precisely. He's worried about being branded a traitor, about staining the family name forever, regardless of the king's actions.
And this fear makes him do something pretty drastic, right? He turns on his own men.
He does. He draws his sword on Huang Ming and Zhu Ji, calls them thieves. He accuses them of having wolf's ambition, basically saying they're just using his personal tragedy as an excuse to stir up trouble.
Wow. Calling his most loyal supporters thieves right after they've witnessed this horror alongside him. That seems like a huge misstep, doesn't it? Tactically speaking.
Oh, absolutely. It's a move born out of panic, I think.
Yeah.
He's desperate to hold on to that structure, that loyalty, even when the king himself has shattered it. He's trying to shut down the talk of revolt to preserve the family name.
But his officers must see he's focused on the wrong thing. On the reputation, not the actual wrong that's been done.
Exactly. They see the injustice. He sees the potential historical fallout. So he quashes the immediate call for rebellion, but you can tell he's just simmering inside.
Okay, so the initial shock doesn't break him. What does? This brings us to that really clever, almost cruel moment of psychological pressure, right?
This is where it gets fascinating. Feihu's in deep mourning, his sons are weeping, and nearby, his 4 key officers, including Huang and Zhu Ji, are sitting there drinking wine and
Laughing while he's grieving? That's designed to provoke, surely.
It has to be. Feihu confronts them, demands to know why they're celebrating when his world is falling apart. Huang gives a sort of non-answer, but then Zhu Ji steps in.
Ah, Zhu Ji. He seems like the sharp one here.
Very much so. He delivers this absolutely devastating, calculated insult. He starts by acknowledging Feihu's rank, saying, people who know you praise your ability, your right to wear the python robe and jade girdle, the Pi Mong Yao Yu.
Okay, let's pause on that. The python robe and jade girdle. That's not just clothing, is it? That's the symbol of his entire status, his military command, the Martial Success King title itself.
Exactly. It embodies those 7 generations of service and earned merit. It's his whole professional identity.
Okay, so Zhu Ji sets that up.
And then delivers the killer blow. He says, but those who don't know better, implying the gossip, the whispers. They just say you got your high position, your wealth, your status, only because you relied on your sister-in-law's beauty to please the king. The phrase is, yi sa sa zi say, he yu jun wan.
Wow. He's saying Feihu isn't a great general. He's just a beneficiary of his family's women appeasing the king, that his merit is completely unearned.
It's brutal. It attacks the very core of his honor, his martial identity, his family's legacy, everything he was trying to protect moments before.
So you're saying this insult, this attack on his personal merit, actually hits harder than the murder of his wife and sister?
In this specific cultural context of honor, yes, I think it does. The deaths were a tragedy inflicted by the king. They gave Feihu a moral high ground, a justification for anger or even vengeance. But the insult, it suggests his entire life, his family's whole legacy, is fundamentally fraudulent, built on sexual politics, not strength.
It takes his private grief and twists it into public, professional humiliation.
Precisely. And the reaction is immediate. Feihu shouts, Kisha wo yi! This kills me with rage. That carefully preserved loyalty, that 200-year dam, it just bursts. He tells his family, we're leaving. We revolt.
The insult did what the tragedy couldn't.
And Zhu Ji, seeing Feihu is finally committed, makes his next move. The text calls it the Zhuhuji, the plan of no return.
What does that mean, plan of no return?
Well, Feihu had been thinking about this strategic option. Escape west to Shiki, join forces with the rising King Wu. It's safer, more logical.
Allows for retreat, maybe negotiation, maybe even a pardon down the line.
Exactly. Zhu Ji slams that door shut.
Yeah.
He says, no, we attack King Zhu now, right here, at the Noon Gate, the Wu Men.
The symbolic heart of the capital.
By launching a direct assault on the king there, Feihu commits undeniable public treason. There's no walking that back. It forces the issue immediately.
So they ride to the Noon Gate. And the description is amazing. Feihu, even now, feels shame-scarisi facing his king. He's on his famous 5-colored divine ox.
A symbol of his status, yeah. And King Zhu comes out ready for a fight. He's got this elaborate armor, the 9 Swallow, 8-strapped armor. He's riding his carefree horse, carrying the general slaying saber. He looks the part of the paranoid tyrant, almost expecting betrayal.
But Feihu still hesitates to strike first.
He does. It's Zhu Ji and Huang again who force the action. They ride forward, shouting the accusations right at the king, Zhenqi Chenqi, forcing Feihu to join the fight.
And how does the fight go?
It's swift. It's the 3 of them, Feihu, Huang, Zhu Ji against King Zhu. They fight for maybe 30 rounds.
Yeah.
King Zhu is fierce, but he's outnumbered and eventually overwhelmed.
Doesn't his horse do something strange?
Yes. His horse apparently sits down backward in defeat. A really undignified moment. The king is forced to retreat, flee back through the Noon Gate.
That image, the king's horse collapsing backward, feels so symbolic. But Feihu doesn't finish him off?
No. Huang Ming wants to kill the king right then and there, but Feihu stops him. He won't commit regicide. He's made the political point, the armed protest. Now it's about escape. They turn and head west towards Mengzhen.
He draws a line at killing the king, but the damage is done, politically speaking. He's battled his sovereign in the capital square.
The ultimate act of defiance, which brings us to the fallout back at the court.
Right. King Zhu is back inside. The officials are terrified, silent. How does the king spin this?
He lies. Completely. He tells the court Jie killed herself out of guilt and his sister's death was an accidental injury. Zhang, that happened because she started a fight. He takes zero responsibility.
Just a total fabrication to save face.
And then, the crucial figure arrives. Grand Preceptor Wen Taishi. He's just returned victorious from the East Sea campaigns. He's the old guard, embodies institutional loyalty and moral authority. And he's not buying the king's story.
What does Taishi say?
He directly contradicts the king. He says, based on Feihu's character, the fault must lie with the king. Bisiayu Fuju Chenzi, Your Majesty has failed the subject.
He blames the king outright.
Yes, and he even quotes the classic principle, Junbu Zengzichen Tueguo. If the ruler isn't righteous, the subject will serve a foreign state. He actually argues for pardoning Feihu, saying the root cause was the king's moral failure. He even suspects some kind of conspiracy might have trapped the king.
Wow. And do the other officials back him up?
Immediately. They see Taishi as this figure of immense authority challenging the king, and they all pile on, agreeing that Feihu should be pardoned because the king was wrong first. They sense a chance to restore some moral balance, perhaps.
Okay, so it seems like there's a path to reconciliation, maybe, based on the king's initial wrongdoing?
It looks that way for a moment. But then another senior official, Zhu Rong, steps in with the cold, hard, legal reality.
Ah, the counterpoint. What does Zhu Rong argue?
Zhu Rong agrees with Taishi on the moral failure. Yes, the king failed the subject. But, he says, Feihu has also sinned against the sovereign Wuzhenzi Zui.
Meaning?
Meaning that while the king's actions might morally justify Feihu's grief, maybe even his decision to flee, they absolutely do not legally excuse the armed confrontation at the Noon Gate. Attacking the sovereign in public, battling him physically that crosses a legal line into treason.
So the public act of rebellion overrides the private moral justification.
Precisely. The moment swords were drawn against the king at the Noon Gate, it stopped being about personal grievance and became a state crime.
And when Taishi, as the upholder of law and order, has to accept this.
He has to. His sympathy for Feihu doesn't change the legal fact of treason. Once that line is crossed, Feihu isn't just a wrong subject anymore. He's an active rebel against the state.
Which explains his next move, despite arguing for a pardon just moments before.
He immediately orders full-scale military action. Dispatches urgent notices the Feishi to the major border passes, Lintong, Jiameng, Qinglong. The orders are clear. Intercept and capture Huang Feihu.